to Prep Picks. I'm the Williams alongside Steve Williams of ESPN Tri-Cities, TriCitiesSports.com. Steve, if we keep picking the same games all the time, the standings aren't going to change. I'm never going to catch you. But I think there might be some divergence here this weekend in the picks. Love the slate, fun slate, and some really good rivalries in this. So we'll start with maybe one of the best, if not the best. I don't know. There's some good ones on here. David Crockett at Boone, the Musket Bowl.
I think we could pick six different ways this way. We're not going to be 6 for 6. You know, if I went 0-6 and you went 6-0, wouldn't surprise me. Now, if you went 0-6 and I went, no, that's not going to happen. But another great game, Musket Bowl. The teams are 3-13 combined. That does not matter. I think Crockett, a win assures them a playoff spot. Boone will be in the mix with the win. I think a loss, Crockett probably still has a path to the playoffs, but I think Boone is going to be on the outside looking in for with the loss. So that's how big this game is. You know, you look at the Trailblazers, young football team, struggled offensively. Only one game in which Boone has scored as many as 3 touchdowns in a game. Crockett, not a juggernaut offensively, 3 games with only 20 or more points, but they have scored those 20 or more points a couple of 3 times, like I said. So I think the offense for Crockett can produce more points than Boone will. Still, I think it's going to be a defensive struggle. You know, just look at the offensive output for both teams all year long. It screams defensive struggle. It screams special teams play making the difference, a turnover making the difference. I think Crockett overall, you look at that body work, and I got to give the Pioneers a slight edge.
I think when you look at the offensive output for Crockett, I think there's more potential there. I think some of their issues, their slowdown in their offense has been because of injuries. They're getting some of those players back. I think that it's the Musket Bowl, right? It's always going to be entertaining, but I do think that Crockett gets the win in this one. Another big game. This one is probably for second, maybe third in Region 1 6A. A great battle. West Ridge traveling to Science Hill.
Now, Science Hill trying to win out, create a 3-way tie. That will be hard to decipher. We talked about that several weeks ago. West Ridge, though, don't overlook the Wolves. They're in the hunt for a home playoff game as well and a share of the Big East Conference title, as they call it. If Dobbins-Bennett can lose to Science Hill next week and West Ridge can win out. You look at injury, Science Hill lost another running back last week. Ian Mathis, pretty nasty injury down at Maryville. They're already down Aiden Perry, who tried to practice recently, couldn't go. 2-way starter on the offensive and defensive line. Sawyer Necessary out for the year. The injuries have mounted for the Toppers. Meanwhile, West Ridge, a little bit fresher football team, especially running back Ethan Amex was out last half of the game against DB, had to sit out a game, got an off week, came back, had a monster game last week. First West Ridge runner to ever go for over 1,000 yards. Quarterback Justin Hilton will be the next because he's got, we figure 3 games to get 103 yards. West Ridge didn't throw a pass last week in their win. They're going to have to find a way to make a few plays through the air against Science Hill, I think. But if you're discounting West Ridge's chance in this game, I think you're doing the Wolves a disservice. There's definitely a path here that West Ridge can win the football game. I don't know that it's going to open up. I still think Science Hill will win, but it's not the easy pick I thought it was going to be several weeks ago.
I think if you look at this matchup, I think Science Hill, you're right. West Ridge, you're right. They're going to have to find a way to get something more than just the one-dimensional. The running game is very good, and I think it's going to be difficult for Science Hill because of those injuries. I think West Ridge is going to be able to run the ball maybe more than they would have been able to do just a few weeks ago before all those injuries. I do like Science Hill in this game. I do think this is going to be incredibly close. If you're right, if you are writing off West Ridge, you're going to be surprised, I think, by the final score. And who knows, we may both be wrong. Don't call this what they call it in Hawkins County Bowl is next.
Yeah.
Maybe the biggest one they've played ever between Volunteer and Cherokee.
For sure. I mean, both teams, 2 losses in the league to Elizabethton and Greenville. We kind of expected that. The winner likely going to be the 3 seed and avoid Alcoa in the first round of the playoffs. That's huge in itself right there. The thing about this game in Hawkins County, there's not been a year since 1980 when these 2 schools opened that both the Chiefs and the Falcons have been in the playoffs in the same season.
That's crazy.
And I really think that's going to happen this year, even for the team that loses. Certainly, I think they're still in position to be the 4 seed. So it's as big Hawkins County big game as we've ever seen. How's that? Both teams can score the ball, and both teams have put up a lot of points on the year. This rivalry, though, is so heated that there's a lot of underlying issues. You may not hear about it a lot, but there's so much heat between these two teams that Cherokee doesn't really like the way Volunteer built its roster on transfers. They like the fact that most of their kids are homegrown. They've made that an issue, I think, in practice this week. Hey, we're Chief boys. You know, they've got some influx of new talent at Volunteer. Nothing wrong with that. Didn't break any rules. Everybody got a
Don't
to
hate
play.
the player, hate
No,
the game.
that's exactly right. So it's going to be a fabulous game with a lot of undertones. I just think Cherokee. I'm going to go with Cherokee on this one. I just like their offense just a little bit more, but I mean it's basically a complete guess. You can throw a coin up and it can land five times head, five times tails, and you know you can pick it that way if you want to. But I got to pick Cherokee.
We're gonna diverge.
I
This is
knew
where
it.
we diverge. I love Cherokee, and I do. I love the way that they've built that with their own kids from the ground up. They have really just blood, sweat, and tears to get that program to where it is now. And I do think this is going to be an incredibly great game. But when you look at particularly the Greenville game and the score with Volunteer as opposed to the score with Cherokee, I think that that leans towards Volunteer having a little bit more offensive prowess. I wasn't at either game. I don't know. Maybe the dogs were called off earlier. Maybe there was some sort of grudge against Cherokee that I don't know about or whatever. But just looking at that, like opponents, one of your favorites, Volunteer was closer to both Elizabethton and to Greenville than Cherokee was. So for that reason alone, I'm going to pick the Falcons, but I think this is going to be the best game of the week. And there are some real bangers on here, but I think this game is going to be really, really good. Let's switch over now to the Commonwealth. Generally don't do teams out of the region against teams in our region, but there's so much on the line between this Lebanon Graham game. I had to include it. So Lebanon coming off the loss to Union now has to go on the road. What a schedule to Graham.
Exactly. And this Graham team, I don't think is the same Graham team that we saw earlier in the year. 3 straight wins, 157-10, I think is a total differential, if I'm remembering that correctly. But you talk about common opponents. We're going to hear that a lot here in the last
Yes.
half of the program for
Okay.
sure. Because these two teams do have a common opponent. You mentioned Union. Okay. Both teams lost to Union by 21. So there's not a lot you can concern from that.
Doesn't help you
Doesn't help
much.
you a lot. But I like the way Ridgeview's playing.
Lebanon.
I'm sorry. Who are they playing?
Graham? Lebanon.
I like the way Graham's play. I just think they've finding themselves. Defending state champions had some holes to fill. Lebanon's playing great football. I think going on the road will be tough, so I'll take Graham.
This I talked about last week against Union being a prove it game for Lebanon. They were in that game for a long time. They proved that this is not a fluke, that they are a very good football team. This is going to be another prove it because more so than Union, there are some mental things that go with going to Bluefield and taking on Graham. They are long been considered the big boys in Southwest Virginia, particularly in class in the Region 2D. So I'm going to take Graham. I don't think Lebanon is there yet, but gosh, I don't know. Their quarterback, Michael Reese, he's so hard to slow down. And I'm not sure that Graham's defense is what Union's defense is. So I think it's going to be a great game. I'm going to pick Graham mostly because of what you said. It's at their place, but I think, I don't know. I could be so wrong on this one. This is turning out to be what I think a really fascinating game in Region 1D as kind of the upstart now, Chilhowie. They used to be the big dogs not that long ago, but they're kind of, been in a rebuilding phase or a reloading phase. So now they get to take the reigning champs of Rye Cove on at home. Rye Cove coming off a loss a few weeks ago to Eastside. So this becomes really important in those standings.
No question. And Chilhowie continues to ride that defense. Only allowing 6 points per game. We know that Rye Cove can score the ball for sure. You go back and look at the common opponents. Both teams have played Honeacre and Eastside. The combined point differential is 3. That doesn't help us out anymore when you look at that. So you just got to look at it. You mentioned Chilhowie. I don't know how many people thought they might be 6-1 at this point, but they are. Give them credit, turning that program. You mentioned how good they were a few years ago, kind of went down a little bit, and now they're back on the way up. Rye Cove has been there, though. And so I think I'll take Rye Cove on the road. But again, man, these are tough, They're really, really tough. commend you on the schedule. But I'm going to take Rye Cove. I just think the experience in this type of games lends itself better for the Eagles.
I am diverging again.
Yeah.
If this game was in Duffield at Rye
Yeah.
Cove, then I think I would take Rye Cove. I think that it being in Chilhowie, and I just think that Chilhowie program is on the way up. Like they are right there. I think they're neck and neck. I said this when I think you could throw a blanket over East Side, Rye Cove, and Chilhowie right now. And really, that's the cream of the crop in Region 1D. Um, East Side, and then the other two. I said when Rye Cove and East Side played, if they play two times, they probably split. I feel this way about this game. If they play two times, they probably split. But because it's in Chilhowie, because I like drama and because I like to be different, and this is finally a week where we can be a little bit different. And I think Chilhowie is much improved this year. I'm going to go with the Warriors in this one. Final matchup, our Friday night rivals game of the week, Abingdon at Ridgeview. This is a big one, particularly for Abingdon.
No question. Abington's still got a shot at the Mountain 7 Conference with the schedule they have left, improving all the way. Ridgeview, that offense continues, averaging about 49 points per game in their 6 wins. I just like the way the offense is playing for Ridgeview. Again, you look at the common opponents. Let's look at that. John Battle and Wise Central, the combined point differential, 1. Doesn't help any, does it?
No,
But I just, again, I like the way Ridgeview's playing offense right now. I'll take the Wolfpack.
I think that it is really impressive what Ridgeview has done.
Yes.
Lost a 4-year starter at quarterback, have a brand new head coach. It is not the Ridgeview team that's been, 1 to 1A with Union the last 5 years. Like it's a completely different group of guys. And yet the standard's been set there, and the standard is the standard.
Yeah.
They're still right there battling at the top of the Mountain 7. Abingdon, I don't know what's going on at Abingdon. I don't know if they've had injuries. I don't know, if what is going on, if it's mental in their head or whatever, but they were so good at the beginning of the year and they have hit such a bump, and yet still as you mentioned, they still have a chance in the Mountain 7. But I just think at the moment Ridgeview is playing much better football, and the game is at Clintwood, which is a can't get here there from here, very difficult place to go play a football game. Gorgeous, one of the
yes.
most immaculate football facilities in our area. I just love going out there, but it's a tough place to play.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, I'm going to take Ridgeview in this game as well. What's on your mind this week?
Hey, well, 2 games different. The good news
Yes.
after all that is I'm only going to be 2 games behind you. I like that.
Or you'll be 3 games ahead.
But what fun is that to look at the 6 games we had
Yeah.
on the slate this week? I'm glad. What I take from last week is that I'm glad we're into this week.
Yeah.
How's that? Okay. But I was taking a look at, particularly the Tennessee playoff possibilities, and because the regions are so small, there's region names left this week and next week. You really don't have very many spots. You can't look at the bracket and say, okay, this team is going to be here.
Right.
I mean, Sevier County can. They're going to be here. And we know that Elizabethton or Greenville is going to be here or here. We know that Happy Valley and South Green is going to be, well, here. But a lot of these teams, I mean, they could be 1 through 4. They could be 2. They could be out. It's going to make the last couple of weeks a whole lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to. And in Southwest Virginia, I'll just say this. I really wish that we would have, well, if we got rid of the PowerPoints officially, I wish we would have decided a uniform way to do the playoffs, because we have some regions that are still using the PowerPoint, but they're not officially being put out by the VHSL. They're doing their own generation of the PowerPoints.
Okay.
We have some regions that are just picking based on pure record, which I think is, I mean, that's how a lot of people do it. So, okay. But I kind of like the PowerPoints because it doesn't punish you if you have to play a class 3 team or whatever, especially if you're competitive with them. I don't really care what the system is. I just wish it was consistent between the 3 regions we play, because I think if I'm correct, and I'm not even 100% sure this is correct. So if you're watching and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think region 3D and region 1D are using the PowerPoints. And I think region 2D, although they are producing PowerPoints, are using schedule standings.
Whose idea was that?
Oh, the VHSL, of course. They love that. They love chaos.
Yeah, I don't get it either. I mean, do I have a hard time following the PowerPoints? For sure, but at least I know what they represented
Right.
before, and that everybody was playing under the same system. I don't know how you put a playoff bracket together and you're not playing under the same system. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Each region gets to decide.
Yeah.
So Region 2C might be using PowerPoints. Who knows? I haven't dug that much into it, but yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I just first as I sit here and also try to slog through that to kind of figure out what the scenarios are, it's like I don't have the patience. Just tell me who's
If
playing.
you know anything about that, put that in the comments.
Yes, let me know. But I believe that's the case, and if it is, just let me know who's going to the playoffs. That's
We'll pick the games once you tell us who's playing.
right. Right. So if you want to know more about high school sports, and it is definitely crunch time for volleyball and for soccer, make sure to follow his website. That is tricitysports.com. And then for all your high school football scores and highlights, join me Friday at 11:15 on Friday Night Huddle.